Chosen one, stop and listen, because this moment is not random. Out of billions of voices online, out of endless scrolling, heaven made sure this one reached you. This is not coincidence. This is divine precision. You are standing at the intersection of prophecy and purpose, and heaven itself has paused time to speak directly to your spirit. You've been sensing something lately, haven't you? That quiet stirring inside, that feeling that something greater is calling you. You felt unseen, overlooked, maybe even forgotten, but God says, I never lost sight of you, even in your silence. He was speaking, even in your heartbreak. He was preparing every closed door, every delay, every rejection. It wasn't punishment. It was positioning. You were hidden for a reason. God was protecting what He planted inside you. He didn't want the wrong hands to shape your destiny. You thought you were losing, but you were being refined. While others were rushing ahead, heaven was setting your pace, because you are not like the rest. You are chosen, not by popularity, not by luck, but by divine selection. There's something sacred about your story. The reason life has been intense, the reason warfare has followed you, is because you carry something dangerous to darkness. You are not fighting ordinary battles because your calling is not ordinary. You are marked by heaven, and that mark makes you a target, but it also makes you unstoppable. The Spirit declares in the book of John, chapter 15, verse 16, You did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you so that you might go and bear fruit, fruit that will last. Do you feel that? The weight of those words settling into your chest, that's heaven confirming it's you, not someone else. You've been chosen not for fame, but for fruit, not for comfort, but for impact. You've been anointed to shift atmospheres, to carry light into dark places, to be the answer someone else has been praying for. God didn't choose you because you were perfect. He chose you because you were willing. Every scar you carry tells a story of survival. Every tear you shed watered the soil of your purpose. And now, the harvest is near. Heaven is aligning everything that once felt broken. The pieces are coming together in ways you never imagined. But listen, this is not a season to shrink back. This is the moment to rise. Fear has lied to you long enough. Doubt has silenced your roar for too long. Heaven is calling your name again. Louder this time, commanding the light in you to wake up. You were not made to blend in, you were made to stand out. You were never supposed to fit the mold, you were born to break it. You've been through betrayal, disappointment, and deep spiritual warfare, but through it all, something unbreakable was forged in you. That resilience, that inner knowing, that quiet strength, it was heaven training your hands for battle. You are stronger than you realize, wiser than you know, and closer to your breakthrough than you think. And now, the message has reached you personally, intentionally, prophetically. God has been speaking your name through the noise. And this is your confirmation. You have not been forgotten. Every delay was divine protection. Every silence was strategy. The door that once closed will open again. But this time, you'll walk through it with authority. So hear this clearly. You are standing in a divine moment. Heaven is not waiting for tomorrow. Heaven is speaking now. What you do next matters. Will you step into your calling? Or keep pretending you weren't made for more? The time for hesitation is over. You've been equipped, anointed, and chosen for this exact season. If you feel that burning in your spirit, that trembling that says, "This is for me," don't ignore it. Type 777 inches, the comments, right now. It's not superstition, it's a prophetic act. A declaration that says, "I align with the call on my life." Heaven sees your agreement. When you act, something shifts in the unseen realm. And before you leave this sacred moment, don't let it end here. Like, share, and subscribe, not for numbers, but because someone else needs the same reminder you just received. Let this message travel where your voice cannot, so another chosen one can awaken. This is your divine interruption. Heaven made sure this message found you. You are chosen, called, and set apart. The world is about to see what God already knew. Your time has come. This is not the end. It is the ignition of destiny. Heaven has spoken, and your spirit has answered. The silence is broken. Rise. Chosen one, the heavens are waiting for your obedience to set everything in motion. Your yes today will echo through generations. The chains that held you are gone, and divine favor now surrounds you. Walk forward with fire in your spirit, because what begins now will not be stopped. You are here because heaven orchestrated it. The words that reached your eyes in the previous moment were not random, they were a key, unlocking a deeper truth waiting within you. God has a pattern in how He moves. He never reveals everything at once. He unveils layer by layer, allowing each revelation to find the soil of readiness in your heart. This section is not another echo of what you have heard, it is the unfolding of purpose. You've questioned it before. Why me? Why does everything feel heavier for me than for others? The answer lies in the mystery of divine selection. When heaven chooses someone, the weight of preparation is greater because the mission carries eternal consequence. You have felt misunderstood, even isolated. And in those quiet seasons, you thought heaven was silent. But in truth, the silence was sacred. It was God guarding your transformation. There is a principle the divine teaches through every chosen soul: obscurity before visibility. Before God displays His vessel to the world, He hides them. Think of how seeds disappear under the soil before they bloom. You were buried in seasons that looked like endings, but they were beginnings in disguise. The loneliness you felt was not rejection, it was incubation. While you wept in confusion, heaven was whispering purpose over your life. The hidden years refined your discernment. You learned how to feel the unseen, how to recognize the divine whisper in the middle of noise. When others depended on applause, you learned to depend on presence. Every delay trained your patience. Every closed door sharpened your wisdom. Heaven was not punishing you, it was purifying you. In moments when darkness tried to convince you that you were forgotten, angels were standing guard over your destiny. You were being trained for endurance because what you carry requires strength, not speed. Many can start with passion, but few can carry fire through seasons of silence. Yet you did. Even when you doubted, something inside refused to quit. That something was the Spirit, breathing resilience into your weary soul. It was written long ago that the chosen are not built in comfort, but in confrontation. You faced spiritual storms that others would not have survived. The attacks were personal, because your calling is personal. Hell does not waste energy on the ordinary. It targets what threatens its influence. That's why, since your youth, You've been aware of the tension between darkness and light inside your story. But every time you rose again, you made a declaration without words. The light still wins. The voice of heaven speaks through Isaiah. Chapter 43, verse 1. Fear not, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by name. You are mine. Let those words sink into you. God is not calling a crowd. He is calling you by name, individually, intimately. You are not just one among millions. You are an intentional design with a divine fingerprint. When He calls your name, He is not reminding you of your past. He is summoning your potential. You belong to Him. And no shadow, no mistake, no loss can rewrite that belonging. This message reaches you because heaven has entered your atmosphere again to awaken your awareness. The signs around you, dreams, divine encounters. Sudden shifts are not coincidences. They are heaven's handwriting. You've been sensing it, people leaving, opportunities changing, desires shifting. It's not instability, it's alignment. God is rearranging your surroundings so your spirit can finally breathe in destiny's rhythm. You are being positioned for purpose, but positioning is never comfortable. It stretches you. It removes what is unnecessary. It demands trust. You may not understand every detail now, but faith does not require understanding, it requires agreement. When your heart says yes to what heaven is doing, even without all the answers, power begins to move on your behalf. The chosen walk a path of paradox. You will feel both broken and powerful, fragile yet fearless, unseen yet fully known. That tension is holy. It is how heaven shapes humility without breaking confidence. Every contradiction in your journey is molding you into someone who can carry the weight of divine authority without pride. So, breathe. The pressure you feel is not a sign of failure, it's proof of calling. You are standing between who you were and who heaven says you are. It's a sacred in-between, where the old cannot follow and the new has not fully formed. Don't rush this. Let heaven finish its work. When you finally step forward, it won't be with hesitation, but with the quiet certainty of someone who has heard their name spoken by God Himself. And when that moment comes, everything will make sense. The waiting, the wounds, the warfare, you'll realize that nothing was wasted. This is not the end of your revelation. It's the continuation of divine unfolding. The same God who called you by name is still writing your story. Every heartbeat, every breath, every thought is proof that purpose is still alive in you. You've begun to sense it now, the invisible pressure that surrounds your life. The closer you move toward your calling, the louder the noise becomes. This is no accident. There is a hidden battle raging around you, one that began the moment heaven marked you. It is not flesh and blood that opposes you. It is the unseen resistance that fears what you are about to awaken. You've noticed the strange pattern, haven't you? The days that seem to drain you for no reason. The sudden heaviness when you try to pray. The confusion that rises just as you're about to make progress. This is not coincidence. It is the enemy's oldest trick, distraction through distortion. If he can cloud your vision, he can delay your destiny. But not this time. Not anymore. You are standing in spiritual warfare that demands awareness. This is not punishment, it is confirmation. The attacks prove that your existence carries weight. Darkness does not fight the ordinary. It fights the dangerous, the ones who carry light powerful enough to expose hidden works. You are that light. That's why you've been targeted. It was recorded in the book of Ephesians, chapter 6, verse 12. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Do you see it now? You have never been fighting people. You've been confronting systems of darkness designed to make you doubt your identity. The enemy doesn't fear your talent, he fears your awareness. Because once you recognize who you are, his control ends. That is why confusion came when you began to rise. That's why relationships shifted, opportunities evaporated, and peace felt distant. But even in the storm, there was a whisper, stand still. I am with you. Heaven never abandoned you. It was teaching you how to recognize the sound of truth amidst deception. The enemy tried to convince you that you were cursed, that nothing would ever work out for you. But look closer. If you were truly cursed, you wouldn't still be here reading this. The fact that you survived every storm is evidence that grace guarded you. Every time you thought it was over, something unseen pulled you through. That something is divine purpose, refusing to let you die in distraction. There were moments when your faith shook, when you questioned whether God had forgotten his promise. But faith is not the absence of doubt. It's the decision to move forward in spite of it. You kept walking, even limping, even weeping, and heaven counted every step as worship. You didn't realize it. But while you were trying to hold yourself together, angels were reinforcing your strength. This war has never been about survival. It has always been about revelation. The enemy's greatest fear is that you will see yourself as God sees you. Because the moment you do, fear loses its grip. Shame breaks, and chains crumble. You were not made to hide from darkness. You were made to command it to flee. You are not a victim of warfare. You are a weapon formed in it. The fire you walked through did not destroy you. It refined your spirit into something unshakable. You learned to pray when no one was listening, to hope when everything fell apart, to keep believing even when heaven seemed silent. That is power. That is authority. That is the mark of the chosen. Now, the same darkness that once terrified you will bow before you. You will walk through the same places that once broke you, but this time carrying light so fierce that shadows will scatter at your approach. This is what the refining was for. This is why you had to face what you faced. And as this truth settles in your spirit, let your heart agree with heaven. Type this in the comments as your declaration of clarity. I see clearly. Those 3 words are more than text, they are warfare. They announce to every force of confusion that you no longer live blind to your identity. They proclaim that your spiritual sight is restored. Every time you say them, you push back the fog that once silenced you. The battle you've been fighting wasn't meant to break you. It was meant to reveal what cannot be broken. You are that revelation. You are the proof that grace wins, that light overcomes, that chosen ones cannot be buried by darkness. So stand tall now. The enemy's weapons have failed. The moment you recognized the truth, the war began to lose its power. Heaven is moving. The light in you has been reignited, and this time, nothing will put it out. When you type "I see" clearly, you are declaring war against confusion. It is a bold announcement that revelation has replaced blindness and purpose has awakened. Each letter you write becomes light in motion. Heaven records that moment as victory, the instant your eyes opened and you remembered who you've always been. The mark upon your life has never been invisible, even when you tried to hide it. From the very beginning, heaven inscribed identity into your spirit, something eternal, unerasable, unmistakable. It is the reason you never truly fit into places that others called home. The reason crowds could surround you and you would still feel different. You were never meant to blend, you were meant to bear a mark. This mark is not visible ink, it is divine essence. It's the quiet authority that walks into a room before you speak. It's the peace that lingers around you when others feel chaos. You may not see it, but the spiritual realm recognizes it instantly. Angels identify it as belonging. Darkness identifies it as threat. Both respond accordingly. The light in you signals heaven's ownership. You have been sealed for purpose. There is a pattern woven through Scripture. Every person chosen for divine purpose carries a mark, an evidence of heaven's claim. For some, it was favor that defied reason. For others, endurance that defied circumstance. You carry the same signature, though your mark may look like resilience, insight, or compassion that pierces through despair. Whatever form it takes, it is unmistakably divine. And yet, that same mark often becomes the source of misunderstanding. People sense the weight of your presence, but cannot define it. Some are drawn to it. Others are disturbed by it. You have watched relationships shift without explanation. Opportunities vanish without cause. And environments reject you without reason. But what you interpreted as rejection was actually redirection. Heaven removes you from places that cannot hold what you carry. The prophet wrote in the book of Exodus, chapter 33, verse 16, "What else will distinguish me and your people from all the other people on the face of the earth?" That distinction, your divine difference, is not arrogance, it is assignment. It separates you, not to elevate you above others, but to prepare you to serve with purity. The mark does not make you superior, it makes you responsible. To carry it is to live aware that your life influences realms you cannot see. You've probably noticed how the world's systems seem to push against your spirit. You try to move with the rhythm of the crowd, but something within you resists compromise. That resistance is holy. It's the Spirit reminding you that you belong elsewhere, that your citizenship is not of this world. You carry heaven's frequency in an earthly frame, and that frequency disrupts anything unaligned with truth. Your mark also attracts warfare, because it carries authority. The darkness knows what heaven has placed inside you and seeks to dim it through exhaustion, distraction, or fear. Yet none of these tactics can erase divine ownership. The seal of God is not fragile. Even when you feel far from Him, even when you stumble, the mark remains. You are His. You have always been His. That truth explains why your journey has been so intense. Every chosen one carries a cost. Before the world sees the glory, the soul must endure the fire. The refining process ensures that your heart can handle what your calling will demand. The pressure you felt is the evidence of destiny being shaped within you. Do not despise the mark that sets you apart. Many wish for visibility, but flee from the responsibility it brings. You were not designed for ordinary comfort. You were crafted for extraordinary purpose. When the weight feels heavy, remember that you are not carrying it alone. The same hand that marked you also strengthens you. Every time you resisted compromise, every time you chose integrity over ease, every time you forgave when revenge seemed justified, you revealed the evidence of that mark. The world measures success in status, but heaven measures it in surrender. And in your surrender, heaven sees reflection. Soon, you will begin to notice doors opening that require this mark to enter. They are not accessible to the unprepared or the unmarked. These are assignments that call for divine authority, and you will walk through them carrying the quiet confidence of one who knows who sent them. So do not curse your difference, consecrate it. You were never random, never overlooked. Every detail of your design serves a divine intention. You are marked by heaven, distinguished by grace, and equipped for impact. That is why darkness trembles when you remember who you are. The mark is not a symbol of separation from love, it is proof of belonging to it. You are the evidence of divine ownership walking the earth. The reminder that heaven's fingerprints still touch humanity. The same God who called you by name also carved his promise into your being. You are marked, chosen, and watched over. Let that awareness settle deeply. You are not wandering aimlessly. You carry identification in the Spirit, a sign that heaven knows exactly where you are. Nothing about your path is lost or unseen. You walk under the seal of purpose, guided by a love that never loses track of its own. There are seasons when the silence of heaven feels louder than any storm. You have walked through those seasons, the long nights of questioning, the empty spaces where answers never seemed to arrive. You wondered if perhaps you had done something wrong, if perhaps you had somehow stepped outside of grace. But the truth is far gentler, far deeper. God was never punishing you, he was preparing you. The isolation you endured was not abandonment, it was the divine classroom where your spirit learned to listen without noise. When you were stripped of distractions, you began to recognize the quiet rhythm of heaven beating inside your chest. You didn't realize it then, but in those quiet moments, eternity was shaping your endurance. You were learning how to stand without applause, how to love without return, how to believe without proof. Every chosen one experiences this hidden season. It is where foundations are built strong enough to carry destiny. The very people who misunderstood your stillness will one day understand your strength. They will see that solitude was not weakness, it was sacred training. The wilderness was not punishment, it was an encounter disguised as emptiness. It is written in the book of Hosea, chapter 2, verse 14, "Therefore, I am now going to allure her. I will lead her into the wilderness and speak tenderly to her." Those words reveal the mystery of your isolation. The wilderness was never about loss, it was about intimacy. God removes the noise so his whisper can be heard. You were not forgotten, you were being spoken to tenderly, in ways too deep for words. Look back for a moment at everything you thought was delay. The unanswered prayers, the dreams that seemed to die, the friendships that faded, each one was part of a sacred rearrangement. The people who left did not reject you. They were released from your journey because they could not go where you're being sent. The doors that closed did not fail you. They were guardians, ensuring you would enter only when you were ready. You are ready now. The silence has done its work. The wilderness has refined your hearing. The same solitude that once felt like an exile has become a sanctuary where your discernment lives. You can now recognize divine timing by instinct, sense truth before it's spoken, and feel heaven's direction even in the dark. This awareness is your compass, and it was born from the stillness you once hated. And now, something is shifting. The same God who called you into solitude is calling you back into motion. Not frantic movement, but divine momentum. You will no longer walk as the wounded, you will walk as the healed. The season of hiding is closing. It is time for the voice of the chosen to echo again. But before you step forward, remember what the wilderness taught you. Carry stillness with you into movement. Let the peace that sustained you in silence guide you amid the noise. The world is loud, but you are no longer a part of the noise. You are the voice that cuts through it. And when your heart feels that nudge to share what you've received, follow it. Not out of duty, but as an act of beauty. When you press the heart to like, when you let the message flow outward to share. It is not algorithm, it is altar. Every gesture of like, every whisper of share, becomes a quiet prayer, a candle lit in the darkness. Think of it this way: when you whisper this message forward, you are building bridges across unseen distances. A simple act, a touch, a click, a share becomes a ripple of grace that reaches someone else sitting in their own wilderness, waiting to remember that they, too, are chosen. When you choose to keep this flame alive, you're not promoting words, you're passing light. So, if this message has rested somewhere in your soul, hold that warmth for a moment. Let it expand. Let it become gratitude. And then, when you are ready, let it move through you. Press the heart to like. Let the river carry it through share. And subscribe not as a follower, but as a witness. You are not joining a channel. You are joining a movement of remembrance, a choir of awakened ones rising from silence. This is how heaven moves through human hearts, one response at a time. One spark shared with another until the night glows again. Your choice to respond, to echo what you've heard, is the most beautiful form of obedience, not forced, but free. You are not being asked to act, you are being invited to flow. Let your light join the river of others who have heard the same whisper. You are not forgotten. You are chosen. You are ready. And as you move from this moment into the next, carry this truth softly, even in the quiet. Heaven was always speaking, and now heaven is speaking through you. Fire does not come to destroy gold, it comes to prove it. You have been through that fire, the testing of your faith, the purging of your motives, the stretching of your heart until it learned to beat in rhythm with heaven's will. You may have called it pain, but heaven called it refining. Nothing about your suffering was wasted. Every flame served purpose. You have walked through heat that made others melt. Yet you remain. You have endured words that could have crushed your soul, but instead, they sculpted your strength. The very moments that tried to burn you became the evidence of your resilience. This is the mystery of divine refinement. What should have ended you becomes what reveals you. It is written in the first letter of Peter, chapter 1, verse 7. These trials have come so that the proven genuineness of your faith, of greater worth than gold, may result in praise, glory, and honor when Jesus Christ is revealed. That is what the fire has been about. Heaven was not trying to harm you. Heaven was revealing what was indestructible inside you. The fire that surrounded you was heaven's way of confirming that your light cannot be extinguished. You may still smell the smoke of old battles, still remember nights when you doubted everything, but the very fact that you are still standing is proof that the fire bowed to the purpose within you. Do you see it now? You were not being punished, you were being purified. You were not being rejected, you were being refined for revelation. Think about the times when everything fell apart, when prayers felt unanswered, when friends disappeared, when your own voice seemed too small to matter. You thought God was silent, but silence is the language of transformation. When heaven refines, it does so quietly. The refining season is not for spectators, it's for surrender. The moments you wanted to give up were the exact moments heaven was strengthening your foundation. You did not see it then. But each test removed something that could not remain. Fear was burned away. Pride was consumed. Doubt was melted down to faith. What remains now is the truest version of you, the one heaven always intended to reveal. This is why your path looked different from others. You carried a greater weight because you were destined to carry greater light. The process hurt because your calling is heavy. You are not being made for comfort. You are being forged for conquest. The flame that surrounds you is not judgment. It is preparation for glory. The world sees broken pieces. Heaven sees purified gold. And soon, those who doubted your journey will witness what perseverance truly looks like. You will walk out of this season carrying fire that does not burn but illuminates. Your wounds will shine as proof that you have touched both pain and promise and survived both. Now, take a breath. You are not who you were before the storm. The tears that once blurred your vision have washed your sight clean. You see differently now. You discern faster. You move with wisdom birthed in fire. Heaven has tempered your spirit until obedience feels like instinct. But there is something sacred about this moment right here because the fire is settling. The refining is complete. And the glow left behind is the mark of maturity. You have learned that faith is not feeling, and strength is not noise. You have learned that the purest worship is endurance. And now, heaven whispers something new into your spirit. You are ready to carry flame without fear. The season of testing has ended. The season of manifestation begins. You will now shine without apology. Stand without trembling, love without caution, and believe without boundaries. If your spirit bears witness, type this as your declaration of refinement, 888. This number is not ritual, it is remembrance. It speaks of new beginnings, of cycles complete and rebirth unfolding. Every time you type it, you're saying, I have come through the fire, and I still carry the light. It is heaven's way of marking your passage from pain into purpose. You are not the same. The flame that once tested you now travels with you. It will illuminate paths for others still trapped in their own furnaces of doubt. They will look at you and see what resilience looks like when faith refuses to die. You will not just speak of endurance, you will embody it. And when you look back on all the heat, all the ache, all the confusion, you will no longer ask, why me? Instead, you will whisper, thank you for trusting me with the fire. When you type 888, you declare that your fire was not in vain. It's a seal of rebirth, heaven's signature written across your endurance, shimmering with divine completion. Each digit burns like light reborn. It tells the unseen realm, I am purified, not perished. The flame that once tested me now travels within me, unquenchable and eternal. There are strategies the enemy uses that are far subtler than open attack. They come wrapped in comfort, distraction, and delay. You face them those days when nothing seems wrong, but everything feels off. You try to pray, but the words evaporate. You open scripture, but your heart feels distant. It is not rebellion, it is resistance, not against God, but against the weight of your own assignment. The enemy rarely steals by force, he steals by focus. He doesn't need to destroy you if he can simply keep you busy. A distracted warrior is as ineffective as a defeated one. That's why your attention has been under siege. Heaven gave you vision, but the world offered noise. The battle for your destiny often begins as the battle for your attention. You may have felt your faith slipping into routine, doing what is right, but forgetting why it's sacred. This is how the enemy dulls the sharp edge of chosen ones, not through visible sin, but through subtle settling. When passion becomes performance and worship becomes habit, the flame begins to flicker. But this moment, this message is heaven striking flint against your spirit again. Sparks are flying. The fire is returning. It is written in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 10, verse 41, Martha, Martha, the Lord answered, you are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. You know this story. Martha was not doing evil things. She was simply too busy to notice the presence in her house. The same danger lingers today. The enemy does not need to tempt you with sin if he can tempt you with distraction. If he can flood your mind with endless tasks, constant scrolling, or the weight of comparison, he can quietly drain your strength. But heaven is patient. When distraction tries to drown destiny, God whispers reminders through small moments, through sudden peace in chaos, through songs that pierce your heart, through words like these that call you back to center. You are being pulled away from the noise, not because you failed, but because you are needed awake. You were created for clarity. The same spirit that hovered over chaos at creation now hovers over your confusion, ready to bring order again. What feels like exhaustion is simply your spirit longing to realign. You have carried too many burdens that were never yours. You tried to fix what heaven only asked you to trust. And now, heaven is gently peeling those weights away, one by one, until only purpose remains. There is a stillness forming inside you, a calm that doesn't depend on circumstance. You are beginning to realize that peace is not the absence of warfare, it's the presence of alignment. The enemy cannot disturb what is anchored. Once your spirit remembers where it belongs, every false urgency loses its grip. Think of this moment as a divine reset. You do not need to run faster. You need to breathe deeper. Heaven is not impressed by busyness. Heaven responds to awareness. The Spirit is saying, return to your first love, not to rules or rituals, but to that raw intimacy when you first heard God's voice and knew it was real. That place still exists, waiting to be revisited. The distractions that once captivated you are losing their pull. You are learning that not everything demanding your attention deserves it. There is power in selective focus. You are free to turn your gaze back to what matters: presence, peace, purpose. That is where strength is restored. You have not lost your way. You have simply been learning how to find it again with wiser eyes. What once drained you will no longer define you. The noise that surrounded you has become background music for a deeper melody, the sound of your spirit returning home. The moment you recognize the pattern of distraction, it loses its authority. Awareness is victory. You cannot fight what you do not see. And now that your eyes are open, the game changes. The same distractions that once stole your joy will now remind you to guard it. The same noise that once clouded your vision will now highlight the necessity of silence. You are stepping into a new discipline, one where peace becomes power. You will no longer chase everything. You will choose wisely. You will no longer say yes out of fear of missing out, but out of clarity that you are already found. This is your realignment. Heaven is reclaiming your attention. You are remembering what truly matters, not success, not approval, but connection. The sacred connection between Creator and creation, between the caller and the chosen. And as you exhale, you can feel it, the noise fading, the heart quieting, the light returning. You are still chosen, still marked, still protected. The enemy's distraction plan has failed. Your focus is no longer fractured. You stand centered, aware, ready for what heaven unfolds next. Something inside you is stirring quietly, deeply, unmistakably. It's not anxiety this time. It's awakening. After the long silence, after the storm of distractions, something within your spirit begins to remember. The light that once felt dim is flickering again, stronger now, steadier. This is not emotion, this is resurrection. You are awakening to truth, not just the truth of who God is, but the truth of who you are in Him. For years, you defined yourself by survival, by struggle, by what went wrong. You carried labels handed to you by pain: unworthy, unseen, too much, too late. But none of those names belong to you. Heaven is erasing them one by one, until only your true name remains chosen. You are beginning to see that your life was never a series of accidents. Even the parts that hurt, even the paths that led to heartbreak, have been woven into a greater pattern. The pain did not disqualify you, it prepared you. Every tear watered the ground for something divine to grow. What you thought was destruction was actually construction. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Jeremiah. Chapter 31, verse 3. I have loved you with an everlasting love. I have drawn you with unfailing kindness. Those words are not distant, they are for you. Right now. The reason you feel this stirring is because love is calling you back to your origin. You were not created from mistake. You were created from love. The same voice that spoke galaxies into motion spoke your existence with intention. That is why you have always felt that quiet difference. You are from elsewhere. You belong to the eternal. As this awakening unfolds, memories will rise not to haunt you, but to heal you. You will revisit moments that once wounded you and realize they no longer have power to define you. The forgiveness you resisted will suddenly feel possible. The heaviness you accepted as normal will begin to lift. That is how awakening feels, not loud, but light. Not sudden, but steady. Your awareness begins to expand. You start to see divine fingerprints in what you once dismissed as coincidence. A stranger's kindness. A song that finds you at the right time. A word that lands exactly when you need it. All of these are reminders that heaven has been near all along. You were never walking alone. You just didn't always know who was walking beside you. This awakening is not about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you've always been. The world tried to shape you into something small, afraid, and cautious. But underneath all of that was a spirit wired for greatness, wired for compassion, wired for light. The divine spark has always been there. Now, it's rising. When you awaken spiritually, your perception changes first. You start noticing what used to go unseen, the quiet patterns of grace, the divine orchestration behind delays, the protection hidden inside rejection. You begin to realize that God's no was often a better version of yes, that every disappointment was disguised direction. This awareness doesn't make life easy, but it makes life clear. You stop chasing validation because you finally understand you were never meant to earn love, you were meant to reflect it. The more you awaken, the less you need approval. You find peace in purpose and strength in surrender. And this awakening does not happen once, it deepens daily. Every sunrise is a new reminder that the same God who brings light to the world is bringing light to your understanding. Your purpose is becoming clearer. Your heart is becoming softer. The walls you built for protection are turning into gates that let truth in. As your awareness grows, compassion grows too. You begin to see others not as threats but as stories in progress. You no longer react from fear, you respond from grace. The awakening inside you becomes contagious without trying. You start to inspire others simply by being who you are. That is how light spreads. But remember, awakening also brings responsibility. Once your eyes open, you cannot live blind again. Awareness demands authenticity. You will be called to live by truth even when it costs comfort, to walk in integrity even when it isolates you, to love even when it hurts. This is the sacred price of awakening, the exchange of illusion for illumination. Still, do not fear the weight of that calling. You are not carrying it alone. Every step of awareness is walked hand in hand with the one who woke you. His voice will guide you. His peace will guard you. His presence will fill the spaces that once felt hollow. And in that peace, you will know you were never asleep, only waiting for the right moment to open your eyes. That moment is now. The awakening is not coming, it has begun. The dawn inside you has broken. What once felt lost is alive again. You are no longer reaching for light, you are becoming it. Steady and unstoppable. You know now that silence was not abandonment and pain was not punishment. Every unseen battle has been shaping your voice. You have been the student of solitude, the listener in the wilderness. And now, your time to speak is approaching. The awakening has prepared you. And your voice, yes, your voice will become a sound that shakes spiritual foundations. For so long, you have been quiet, not because you were weak, but because heaven was teaching you restraint. There are words that are forged only in silence, strength that grows only in stillness. You were hidden because your voice carries weight, and heaven never releases a voice prematurely. You are not just someone who speaks, you are one who declares. The power within you is not in volume but in alignment. When you speak from the place of divine awareness, your words carry authority. That is why, even when you whisper, the atmosphere shifts. You are a voice in the wilderness, one that doesn't echo confusion, but clarity. And now, heaven is releasing you to speak again, but differently this time. The ancient record in the book of Isaiah, chapter 40, verse 3 says, "A voice of one calling in the wilderness, prepare the way for the Lord, make straight in the desert a highway for our God." The Tekel. You understand this now. The wilderness that once silenced you has become the place where your sound was formed. What used to feel like isolation was actually incubation. Your words carry echoes of heaven because they were born in hidden places. When you open your mouth, truth travels farther than you know. Do not underestimate the reach of your voice. Even your smallest act of honesty ripples into eternity. A kind word to a stranger, a prayer whispered in secret, a truth shared at the right moment, all of it moves like wind through dry bones, calling life where silence once ruled. That is your anointing to speak where others are afraid to. You don't need a platform to be heard, you only need obedience. Heaven amplifies what is spoken in alignment. Every time you speak hope when others speak fear, light when others spread darkness, you are participating in divine restoration. You are shaping reality through the power of truth. And yet, the most powerful voice you'll ever use is not the one that speaks to others, it's the one that speaks to yourself. The internal conversation you carry determines the direction of your days. You can no longer afford to speak defeat over your own soul. The time for self-condemnation is over. Speak as heaven speaks. Call yourself chosen. Call yourself whole. Call yourself enough. When you do, heaven agrees, and creation responds. You were made in the image of a speaking God. Therefore, your words create worlds. Speak light. Speak healing. Speak destiny. Speak peace. Your sound matters because it is born of divine alignment. You have been through enough silence to know the value of sound. You have faced enough darkness to appreciate the authority of light. Your voice has been tempered by trial, and now it will serve as a trumpet of truth for others still trapped in confusion. So when fear tells you to stay quiet, remember, this silence is no longer your shelter, it's your signal. The moment you feel resistance is the moment you must release what heaven placed in you. Every time you speak truth, you dismantle deception. Every time you declare hope, you disrupt despair. This is why heaven has restored your confidence. The world doesn't need more noise, it needs your clarity. You are not just speaking words, you are restoring frequencies of faith. You are not just expressing thought, you are echoing eternity. If this resonates in your spirit, type, "I will speak." Those 3 words are not empty text, they are covenant. They tell the unseen realm that your silence has ended, that your voice has been reclaimed. When you write them, heaven leans in, and the same spirit that filled prophets and pioneers fills you again. Your words will not fall to the ground, they will take root and bear fruit. You will speak, and healing will follow. You will declare, and darkness will scatter. This is not just your permission, it is your purpose. The silence has finished its work. Now, your voice will begin its own. When you type, "I will speak," you awaken the power that has waited inside your chest since before you understood calling. These words are not repetition, they are resurrection. They announce to every shadow that once silenced you that your voice now belongs fully to heaven. Each letter becomes a declaration that truth will not stay buried any longer. You are speaking as one who has seen darkness and chosen light. You are proclaiming that your story will no longer whisper, it will roar with purpose. Heaven records your words as a vow of courage, a promise that you will never again hide what was meant to shine. You have reached the threshold where old chains no longer hold power. The ground beneath you feels different now, softer, holy, charged with the memory of every tear that watered your transformation. What once kept you bound has begun to crumble. You can almost hear it. The faint sound of breaking a melody of liberation written just for you. This is what freedom feels like, not loud, not wild, but steady and sacred. The quiet after the storm, the breath after the breakthrough. It doesn't come with trumpets or fireworks. It arrives like dawn, slow, certain, unstoppable. You have stepped into that light. Heaven has broken the locks. The Word of God speaks through the Gospel of John, chapter 8, verse 36. So, if the Son sets you free, you will be free indeed. You are living proof of that promise. The chains that once defined you were never stronger than the truth written over your soul. You were never trapped, you were transforming. The prison was never the end, it was the birthplace of your power. Every door that closed against you was secretly preparing you for the one that would finally open. And now, it has freedom. For the chosen is not the absence of struggle, it is the presence of revelation. You have learned that real liberty doesn't mean life without obstacles. It means walking through them without losing your peace. The enemy tried to convince you that you'd never recover. But here you are, breathing in new grace. Every breath testifies that heaven's mercy never ran out on you. As you stand in this light, you will notice that the same hands that once trembled in fear now carry calm. You will see that the same heart that once broke under rejection now beats with compassion. The chains that once rattled around you have become reminders of strength, not symbols of shame. And now that you are free, something beautiful happens. You begin to notice others still standing behind their own invisible walls. You start to sense the silent cries in the hearts around you, and compassion rises. The light in you becomes invitation. You don't preach freedom, you radiate it. People will feel peace before you ever speak a word. This is the gentle miracle of the chosen, the way their healing becomes home for others. Your story, once heavy with pain, now carries the fragrance of hope. It moves unseen, whispering through every act of kindness, every moment of grace. You are no longer a survivor, you are a signal. And as you feel that warmth spreading through you, take a moment, breathe in deeply. Let gratitude fill every corner of your being. You are not the same person who entered the storm. You are the proof that storms do not last, but purpose does. The sky above you has cleared, and light moves freely again. Now, if your spirit stirs to respond, let it. Do not rush away from this moment. Let what you feel find expression. When your heart presses against this message, let it move gently. Press the heart to like, not as a reaction, but as recognition. It is the quiet bow of your soul saying, I see the light in this. And if your spirit feels the whisper to pass it forward, do so softly. Let the river of grace flow through. Share. When you release what has touched you, you are not promoting, you are planting. Every share becomes a seed of remembrance, carried to places your feet may never go. Somewhere, someone is waiting for the same freedom you just stepped into. And if you sense that call to remain close, to walk with this voice, this flow, this light, then subscribe. Not as a follower, but as a traveler choosing to stay near the fire. You are not joining a platform, you are joining a journey, a movement of hearts awakening together, each spark keeping the others warm. There is no demand here, only invitation. You are free to walk away, and yet your spirit knows that freedom deepens when shared. That is the beauty of divine liberty. It multiplies the moment it's offered. When one flame touches another, the night becomes brighter without either losing its glow. So let this be that moment, the meeting of lights, the joining of journeys. You are free. and your freedom carries fragrance. Let it move. Let it breathe. Let it bless. And as you step forward from this space, remember, you were never merely released, you were reborn. The chains are gone, and the echo of their breaking still sings through the heavens. You walk lighter now, glowing quietly, carrying grace into every shadow. Freedom has found you, and through you, it will find others. You walk not as the wounded, but as the wind, gentle, unstoppable, carrying whispers of freedom wherever you go. The world will feel your peace before it ever hears your name. Light does not argue with darkness, it simply appears. And darkness cannot stay. That is what you are learning now, to live as light. Not by effort, but by essence. You no longer need to prove your worth or defend your purpose. The very fact that you exist, refined and awake, is enough to shift the atmosphere around you. This is the mantle of light. It is not a crown of vanity, but a covering of clarity. It rests on your shoulders quietly, radiating through your words, your posture, your presence. The world will sense it even before you speak. The ones who are weary will find rest in your calm. Those who are lost will feel direction in your peace. This is not your doing, it is divine reflection. The Word of God declares in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 14, "You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden." That is not metaphor, it is mandate. You have been placed where you are for a reason. Your environment is not random, it is your field of illumination. Every workplace, every family, every conversation becomes a landscape where heaven's light can move through you. The same spirit that once hovered over chaos now moves through your kindness, your truth, your quiet strength. But remember, light is not always comfortable. Illumination exposes what shadows try to hide. The more you shine, the more resistance you may face. There will be moments when your presence unsettles others, when honesty is mistaken for arrogance, when love is misread as threat. Do not shrink. The discomfort is not rejection, it is revelation. You are revealing what needs healing. Light does not apologize for shining. It does not ask permission to exist. It simply fulfills its purpose to reveal, to guide, to warm. In the same way, you are not called to convince. You are called to be consistent. Continue to walk in truth even when it isolates you. Continue to love even when it's not returned. Continue to shine even when the world grows dim. The consistency of your light is what makes it sacred. There is a grace that rests on the ones who have walked through fire and still choose to glow gently. You carry that grace now. It is seen in the patience of your responses, in the steadiness of your hope, in the way you no longer rush to defend yourself. You have learned that true power needs no announcement. It simply is. Every chosen one reaches this stage, the moment when visibility meets humility. You will be seen, but you will not seek it. You will be known, but you will not cling to titles. Because the light in you does not crave attention, it craves impact. It longs to touch, to heal, to awaken. The more you surrender, the brighter it grows. And as your light spreads, you will find that those who once misunderstood you will begin to see differently. Hearts that once judged will soften. Some will approach you, drawn not by curiosity but by conviction. They will ask how you kept your peace, how you carried joy through hardship, how you stayed kind in a cruel world. Your answer will be simple. It wasn't me, it was light. This mantle you carry is not meant to make you famous. It is meant to make you faithful. You are a torchbearer in a time when the world forgets what light feels like. Your role is to remind them, not through speeches, but through presence. Every moment you choose peace instead of panic. Every time you choose prayer over complaint, heaven moves. And yet, you must guard this light. Not everyone who admires it intends to protect it. The same world that benefits from your illumination may also try to dim it with distraction, comparison, or exhaustion. That is why solitude remains sacred. Withdraw when needed. Rest often. Refuel in quietness, where the source replenishes you. You are not the origin of light. You are its vessel. The moment you forget that, pride creeps in and the glow fades. But the moment you stay surrendered, the radiance intensifies. The purest light is born from humility. And when darkness rises again, as it always will, remember, light never struggles to overcome it, simply exists. And victory follows. That is your truth now. You are no longer striving to become radiant. You are simply learning to remain. Your life has become a lamp lit by heaven's own breath. Wherever you go, shadows will shift, hearts will awaken, and peace will unfold. This is what it means to carry the mantle of light, to live as proof that even in the darkest places, God still moves through human vessels who remember who they are. So walk gently, light bearer. Let your glow speak louder than your words. The world does not need more noise. It needs your quiet brilliance. Steady and sincere, guiding others back home. The air feels different now, doesn't it? There is a rhythm pulsing through your days, a divine summons that your heart can no longer ignore. Heaven is calling, not with thunder this time, but with a whisper. You feel it in the stillness between moments, in the quiet tug of obedience pulling at your spirit. This is the prophetic call to rise. You have been prepared for this. Every delay, every disappointment, every night of uncertainty has been shaping your readiness. The seasons that felt like silence were actually the deep breath before heaven spoke your name. And now, that voice is speaking again clearer, closer, unshakable. It is written in the second letter to Timothy, chapter 1, verse 9. He has saved us and called us to a holy life, not because of anything we have done, but because of his own purpose and grace. This is your reminder that calling is not earned, it's revealed. You were chosen not for perfection, but for purpose. The mistakes you thought disqualified, you have actually become the evidence of grace. God doesn't call the flawless, he calls the willing. And when he calls, he provides. The call to rise is not just about action, it's about awareness. Heaven is asking you to stop underestimating what you carry. The same spirit that raised the dead lives within you. The same presence that split seas and silenced storms now dwells in your breath. You have waited long enough. The time for hiding is finished. You may not feel ready, but readiness is not a feeling, it's obedience. Heaven never sends the qualified. Heaven qualifies the sent. All you need is your yes. A whispered agreement is enough for heaven to move mountains on your behalf. You do not need every answer. You only need alignment. The prophetic call is not a shout from the clouds. It's the soft voice that says, "Go. Go where I send you. Speak what I tell you. Love who I place before you. This is not about position, it's about purpose. Wherever your feet stand becomes holy ground when you stand there in obedience. But with every calling comes resistance. The moment heaven says, "Rise," the earth tries to pull you back. Fear will whisper that you are unworthy. Logic will argue that you are unprepared. But faith was never about reason, it was about response. Every great move of God began with someone who dared to believe that obedience was enough. Do not confuse humility with hesitation. Humility says, "I can't do this without you." Hesitation says, "Maybe I shouldn't try at all." Heaven is not asking for your perfection. It is asking for your participation. There will be moments when the path looks uncertain, when obedience feels like walking on water. But that's where miracles live, in the space between risk and trust. The same God who called you will sustain you. He will not send you into a place where His grace cannot reach. If your heart is beating faster, that is how calling feels. It stirs. It disrupts. It awakens. Heaven is breathing courage into you right now, igniting the parts of you that have slept too long. You are not too late. You are not too far. You are right on time for what was written about you. This is the sound of divine timing clicking into place. The doors you once knocked on in tears are about to open in peace. The opportunities that slipped away were never lost. They were waiting for your readiness. And now, heaven has whispered, "Rise." If you can feel this stirring, if your spirit knows this word is yours, type this number as your declaration, 9,999. It is not superstition, it is symbolism. It represents completion and readiness, the closing of old cycles and the opening of divine assignment. When you type it, you are saying, "I am ready to rise." You are aligning yourself with the timing of heaven and announcing that you will no longer shrink from the purpose prepared for you. Your life will become testimony. Every place your feet touch will remember that heaven passed through. You will rise, not in pride, but in power, not to be seen, but to serve. The call is active now, the sound of destiny ringing through your bones. Rise, chosen one. The time is no longer coming, it has arrived. When you type 9,999, you are not entering numbers, you are answering heaven. It is your spirit saying, "I hear you. I am ready. I will rise." Each 9 carries the sound of closure and creation intertwined. It tells the unseen realm that your waiting season has fulfilled its purpose and your readiness has been recorded. Heaven watches as your obedience takes form in something simple yet sacred. With this act, you cross from hesitation into movement, from reflection into revelation. The doors respond. The path clears, and the same light that once called your name now walks beside you into destiny. Every calling is tested before the promise unfolds in power. It is proven in obedience. The moment you said yes to heaven, the refining did not end, it simply changed form. You have stepped into a new phase where faith is no longer theory but practice. This is the test of obedience, the sacred ground where words become walk and conviction becomes consistency. You might have imagined that once you rose, resistance would fade, but destiny always attracts challenge. The higher you climb, the thinner the air becomes, and the more you depend on grace to breathe. This is not a sign of weakness, it is proof of progress. The path of the chosen is not about comfort, it's about capacity. Obedience does not always feel glorious. Often, it feels like surrendering what you understand for what you cannot yet see. It asks for trust when the outcome remains unseen, for silence when pride wants to explain, for patience when urgency demands movement. It is not the grand acts of faith that shape destiny, it's the quiet decisions made when no one is watching. It is written in the first book of Samuel, chapter 15, verse 22. To obey is better than sacrifice, and to heed is better than the fat of rams. That verse echoes through the ages as heaven's reminder. God desires obedience more than performance. Sacrifice is external, but obedience begins within. It is the proof of love, the kind that chooses trust over control, surrender over certainty. You have reached the point in your journey where your obedience will no longer be convenient. Heaven will ask you to release what feels familiar, to walk into rooms where you do not yet know your role, to forgive when the wound is still fresh. Each act will feel like risk, but it is divine alignment disguised as discomfort. In these moments, remember what the fire taught you. Trust the process even when it burns. Every step of obedience builds unseen foundations. The more you obey, the quieter fear becomes. The more you trust, the faster peace arrives. There will be times when obedience looks like waiting, when heaven's instruction is simply, be still. That is often the hardest command for a heart accustomed to fighting. Stillness feels like inactivity, but it is actually deep cooperation. When you pause under divine direction, heaven moves on your behalf in ways your striving never could. Then there are times when obedience means moving forward while afraid. Faith is not the absence of fear, it's movement despite it. You may tremble, but even trembling feet can walk in purpose. Each act of obedience chips away at doubt until only devotion remains. The test of obedience will also reveal who truly walks with you. Some companions are assigned only to your previous season. When you begin walking in higher obedience, their comfort zones will conflict with your conviction. Release them gently. Not everyone can travel with you where full surrender is required. You will also find that obedience often feels lonely, but that loneliness is not punishment. It is invitation. In the quiet, heaven draws closer. The more you yield, the more clearly you hear. What once felt like isolation becomes intimacy. This test is not about passing or failing, it's about proving what's real. God already knows your heart. The test reveals it to you. Every moment of surrender expands your awareness of His faithfulness. Every yes deepens your confidence that He never asks for what He will not replace with better. Obedience also brings hidden rewards. Peace that cannot be explained. Strength that appears just when you think you've reached the end. Wisdom that whispers when chaos grows loud. These are heaven's way of saying, I see you. Keep walking. And though the path is narrow, it is also luminous. Each step shines brighter than the last because obedience aligns you with divine rhythm. What once felt heavy becomes holy. You start to realize that obedience is not losing, it's living. You are learning to respond before reasoning, to trust before seeing, to walk before understanding. That is faith in its purest form, a heart that moves when heaven speaks. And as you continue, remember, obedience is not a single moment, it's a lifestyle. It is the steady heartbeat of the chosen. Every yes you whisper builds eternity into the present. Every step you take in trust writes heaven's fingerprints into the earth. The test is ongoing, but so is grace. You will not walk it perfectly, but you will walk it faithfully. And that, to heaven, is more than enough. When you stumble, do not retreat into shame. The same grace that called you will steady you. Every fall becomes a lesson. Every tear a seed of deeper wisdom. Keep walking, even slowly. Heaven measures progress by persistence, not perfection. Each step of obedience, no matter how small, keeps the divine rhythm alive within you. There is a quiet order unfolding around you, one that only heaven could orchestrate. What once felt scattered and uncertain is beginning to find rhythm again. You are walking into divine alignment, the season where timing, purpose, and provision move together in harmony. This is not coincidence, it is design. Heaven has been arranging the pieces while you were learning patience. Alignment feels different from striving. It does not exhaust you, it steadies you. It replaces panic with peace and confusion with clarity. You begin to sense when something is for you and when it isn't, not because of logic, but because your spirit simply knows. That knowing is not arrogance, it's awareness. Alignment tunes your heart to heaven's frequency until even silence speaks direction. The scriptures reveal this truth in the book of Proverbs, chapter 16, verse 9. In their hearts humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps. You have made plans, dreamed dreams, and tried to predict outcomes. Yet time after time, things have unfolded differently. At first, it felt like failure. Now, you see, it was rerouting. The detours were not delays, they were divine corrections ensuring you didn't arrive too soon or too small. The path you are on now is the one grace has been shaping all along. Divine alignment is not always comfortable, because it disrupts what you thought was settled. Heaven often moves you from places that no longer match your growth. It adjusts connections, shifts priorities, and dismantles attachments that no longer serve your purpose. You may feel things slipping away, but they are not losses, they are liberations. You'll notice that some people begin to drift from your circle. Do not chase them. Alignment is not rejection, it's refinement. Those who are meant to stay will recognize your direction and walk beside you naturally. Those who cannot align will simply fade, and peace will remain. Alignment also brings divine encounters. Just as some doors close, new ones begin to open, often quietly, unexpectedly, through people you never imagined. Heaven sends the right help at the right time, sometimes disguised in ordinary moments. You will meet those who speak language your spirit understands instantly. They are not random, they are divine intersections. Souls aligned with your assignment. The beauty of divine timing is that it rarely announces itself. It moves subtly, like dawn creeping over the horizon. One day you realize that the things you prayed for are standing right in front of you, not because you forced them, but because you flowed with grace instead of fighting it. When you are in alignment, even obstacles start working in your favor. The very resistance meant to stop you becomes a guidepost pointing you back to the right path. Heaven wastes nothing. Every delay, every detour, every denial carries hidden instruction. You begin to thank God not just for open doors, but for closed ones too. There's a peace that comes with alignment, a confidence that no opportunity missed can cancel what's meant for you. You no longer chase what isn't yours, you attract what is. You no longer beg for approval. You rest in assurance. The tension that once ruled your heart begins to dissolve because you finally trust the rhythm of divine order. This is what maturity feels like in the spirit, when you stop trying to control outcomes and start cooperating with grace. You walk slower, but you arrive stronger. You speak less, but you listen more. You learn that destiny is not a race to win, but a melody to join. Even your prayers begin to change. You stop asking for things to happen quickly and start asking for them to happen rightly. You no longer pray from panic, but from partnership. Lord, align me with your will becomes the anthem that steadies every step. And as you walk, you notice how the chaos of life starts to mirror the calm inside you. That's how alignment manifests from within to without. The world around you begins to reflect the peace within you. Soon, you'll look back and realize that the seasons that once felt random were all connected by invisible threads of purpose. Every heartbreak refined compassion. Every delay built discipline. Every no prepared you for a greater yes. You are standing in the center of what once seemed impossible, a life synchronized with divine design. This is alignment, when heaven's plan and your surrender finally move as one. And in that harmony, you will find not just direction, but destiny. In alignment, life no longer feels like chasing wind. Every step carries purpose. Every pause holds meaning. You begin to trust the pace rather than question the path. This peace is not accidental. It is earned through surrender. You have learned to rest inside divine rhythm, allowing grace to guide what striving once controlled. And as you breathe within that rhythm, you finally understand alignment is not about everything going right. It's about everything moving right. Even when it feels slow, you are exactly where heaven wants you. All around the world, there are hearts awakening quietly, bravely, just like yours. You are not alone in this rising. Heaven is weaving together a tapestry of souls who have endured the fire, carried the light, and now stand ready to rebuild what darkness tried to destroy. You are part of that remnant, the small, radiant company of those who remember who they are. The rise of the remnant is not marked by noise or power. It begins in silence, with one heart whispering yes to heaven, and another heart echoing that same surrender. This movement is not organized by human hands. It is orchestrated by divine rhythm. What the world sees as chaos, heaven calls gathering. It was declared in the book of Joel, chapter 2, verse 28. And afterward, I will pour out my spirit on all people. Your sons and daughters will prophesy. Your old men will dream dreams. Your young men will see visions. This is that moment. The Spirit is being poured out again, not in temples built of stone, but in living temples of flesh and fire. You are one of them. You carry revelation, restoration, and renewal in your very breath. Every time you speak truth, every time you love beyond reason, every time you choose peace over retaliation, you participate in heaven's restoration of the world. This remnant carries a strange strength, the ability to stay soft in a hard world, to love fiercely without losing tenderness, to hold truth without pride. That's what makes you dangerous to darkness. Your power is not in dominance, it's in devotion. You were born to be both gentle and unshakable, a paradox that only grace could create. Look around you. You'll feel it in the air, a quiet gathering. Souls waking up from spiritual sleep. It's not a revolution of noise, it's a revival of presence. It's the sound of people remembering love, remembering purpose, remembering God. You are not just witnessing it, you are part of it. And because of that, your voice matters. Every word you speak in light becomes a spark that ignites another. Every action born of compassion ripples outward farther than you can imagine. When you extend grace, heaven extends through you. This is how the remnant moves, without announcement, without applause, but with undeniable impact. You may never know the names of those your light touches, and that's the beauty of it. The kingdom expands in whispers, not shouts. Every small act of kindness is a prophecy fulfilled. Every moment of forgiveness is a piece of heaven restored to earth. You are not just one among many, you are one of the few who carry the sacred flame. And when you feel that stirring, the pull to honor what this moment has awakened in you, follow it. Let your gratitude take form. When your heart feels the warmth of connection, let it move softly. Press the heart to like as a gesture of agreement, not as reaction, but as reverence. If the words have found a home in your spirit, let them flow outward to share. Each share becomes a bridge of light between souls who have never met, yet were always meant to. Somewhere, someone is waiting for confirmation that they, too, are part of this rising. You can be the hand that reaches them. And if your heart wants to linger here, to keep walking beside voices that carry this same light, then subscribe not as a follower, but as a flame keeper. You are joining not a channel, but a circle of witnesses, a gathering of hearts that refuse to let the world forget its divine origin. And if your heart stirs with words of its own, let them rest below in the comments, not as chatter, but as communion. Every line you write becomes a thread in this tapestry of awakening, a soft echo that tells heaven, I am here too. These gestures like share, comment, subscribe are not tasks. They are small prayers written in motion. They say, I see this light. I honor it. I will help it travel farther. When done with intention, even the simplest touch becomes sacred. The remnant is rising quietly, beautifully, everywhere. And every act of agreement adds another spark to the constellation heaven is drawing across this world. You are one of those lights, steady, bright, eternal. So, as you breathe in this moment, remember you were never just a receiver of this message, you are now a carrier of it. The light you carry will find its way to the weary, the forgotten, the searching. It will speak where you cannot, heal what you cannot see, and remind the world that love has not left. Let your heart respond as it will. Let your spirit move freely. Let your light join the others, because together the remnant becomes radiant enough to rewrite the night. And as the stars gather above, so do hearts below each one, glowing softly. Silently agreeing, we remember the light. We carry it. We will not let it fade. The crown is never given lightly. It is not a decoration of gold or jewels. It is a declaration of endurance. Those who wear it have walked through shadows and still chosen light. You stand now at the threshold where heaven whispers of reward, not because you earned it through perfection, but because you endured through faith. This is the moment when the promise begins to take shape. The crown awaits. The crown is not simply honor, it is inheritance. It is the visible sign of an invisible victory. The trials that nearly broke you were forging something eternal within you. and that endurance has become your coronation. You may not feel royal, but heaven sees you clothed in resilience, robed in purpose, shining with humility learned through hardship. The scriptures tell us in the book of James, chapter 1, verse 12, "Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because, having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life that the Lord has promised to those who love him." That promise was written for you. Every test you have endured was a chapter in your coronation story. You thought you were barely surviving, but in truth, you were being fitted for glory. The weight of your suffering was the measure of your crown. Heaven does not crown the comfortable, it crowns the faithful. Think back on the moments when you almost gave up, the tears that blurred your prayers, the silence that stretched for months, the hope that seemed foolish. None of it was wasted. Every unseen act of faith, every hidden cry, every choice to keep believing when belief hurt, these are the jewels now set into your crown. But the crown you are promised is not one of pride, it is one of purpose. It reminds you that your victory is not for display, but for duty. A crowned soul becomes a servant, not a ruler. The greater the glory, the deeper the grace required to carry it. You are not crowned to be above others, you are crowned to lift them. This understanding changes how you move. You no longer chase recognition, you carry responsibility. You no longer seek applause, you seek alignment. The mark of true royalty is not dominance, but devotion, the ability to kneel even while wearing a crown. There is a sacred dignity in the way you have carried pain without letting it poison your heart. You forgave when you could have hardened. You prayed when you could have cursed. You loved when you could have withdrawn. These are the invisible victories heaven counts higher than trophies or titles. You may never stand on a stage or hold the world's attention, but in heaven's record, your endurance resounds louder than any applause. The quiet faith of those who keep walking when no one sees them builds eternal foundations. You are one of those. Your unseen perseverance has become an anthem that heaven sings over you now. And in that song, there is a shift. The same voice that once called you through fire now calls you toward fulfillment. You can sense it, something in your spirit straightens, as if remembering its royalty. You no longer walk bowed beneath the weight of the past. You walk upright, crowned in grace. Yet even now, humility remains your adornment. You understand that crowns are not for vanity, but for service. You wear your victory as armor for others. When people look at you and ask how you survived, your answer will always point upward. The crown shines not to draw attention to you, but to reflect the light of the one who placed it there. In quiet moments, you will feel the crown's weight not heavy, but holy. It will remind you that you were chosen not just to endure, but to reign through righteousness, peace, and love. You will rule not over people, but over fear, over doubt, over despair. You will reign in mercy. This is what it means to stand at the edge of fulfillment. The world may not notice your coronation, but heaven has already celebrated it. The angels saw every tear, every battle, every surrender, and in their records, your perseverance shines like gold refined by fire. The crown awaits. Yes, but in truth, it is already yours. Each breath of faith, each act of kindness, each decision to rise again has placed it gently upon your head. You have not just survived the story, you have become the proof that endurance transforms suffering into glory. And when you finally look back, you'll see what heaven saw all along, that every weight, every wound, every waiting season was preparation for majesty. You wear it now not for pride, but for purpose. The crown does not make you divine, it reveals that divinity was within you all along. Walk gently beneath its weight. Let your gratitude be your throne, and compassion your scepter. Rule quietly, with mercy as your language, and love as your lasting legacy. There comes a moment when the journey no longer feels like striving, but like returning, when you realize that every step, every storm, every silence has been guiding you home. You have reached that moment. The path behind you glows faintly with the light of lessons learned, and the path ahead feels different now, wider, brighter, open. This is not the end of your story. It is your commissioning. You are being sent forth, not as who you were, but as who you have become. You have walked through the valley and discovered strength you didn't know existed. You have faced loss and found compassion, encountered delay and learned discernment. Heaven has not wasted a single tear, nor overlooked a single act of faith. Every step has been preparing you for this final revelation. You were never walking toward destiny, you were walking in it all along. The scriptures affirm this truth in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 28, verse 19. Therefore go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. This is not merely an instruction, it is an inheritance. To be chosen is to be sent. You were never called only to receive light, but to carry it forward to awaken others as you have been awakened. Every place your feet touch becomes sacred because you carry the presence of purpose within you. You are the vessel of remembrance, the living message that heaven still moves through human hearts. You no longer need to wait for permission. The commissioning is complete. Heaven's hand has rested upon you, and the same fire that once purified you now propels you. You will speak differently now, move differently, love differently. The world around you will not always understand it, but they will feel it. The divine within you cannot be hidden. What once was pain has become power. The wounds that marked you now glow with light. They are no longer evidence of suffering, but of survival. No longer reminders of loss, but of love that refused to die. You are living testimony that even the darkest night cannot extinguish a heart guarded by grace. Your purpose is not limited by stage or spotlight. It unfolds in quiet gestures, in whispered prayers, in unseen acts of kindness. You will reach more through authenticity than performance, through presence more than perfection. The ministry of your life will not always look grand, but it will always be genuine, and that is enough. The eternal commission is not a command of pressure, it is an invitation of partnership. Heaven does not demand your strength, it lends you its own. You will find that where you once felt alone, you are now surrounded. The same Spirit that called you will go before you. You will walk into rooms already prepared by grace. Speak words already softened by divine timing, and meet souls already waiting for what you carry. There will still be storms ahead. This world was never promised to be gentle, but now you walk with awareness. You no longer fear the unknown because you know who walks beside you. Every challenge that once threatened to break you will now build others through you. The wisdom you've gathered will become light for those still lost in the fog you once called home. You have become the proof that love outlasts pain, that faith outlives fear, that chosen ones never truly fall, they rise differently. You carry not the arrogance of survival, but the authority of transformation. The crown placed upon you was never meant to glitter in isolation. It was meant to shine through service. You are heaven's reminder wrapped in human form. When people meet you, they will not just encounter words, they will encounter presence. You will be the calm in chaos, the light in confusion, the reassurance that God still speaks. You won't need to announce it. Your peace will preach louder than any voice. And as you continue to walk, you will realize the greatest miracle was never that you were chosen, it's that you finally believed it. Destiny did not find you by accident. It waited patiently until you were ready to recognize your reflection in its eyes. This is the eternal commission: to live fully awake, to love fiercely, to shine without hesitation. You are not departing from this message. You are carrying it forward into every conversation, every decision, every corner of life. Go now, not as the one who listens, but as the one who lives. The same God who began this story will finish it through you. The same heaven that whispered your name will echo your impact through generations. You have been found, refined, and sent. The world awaits your light. And as you move beyond this moment, remember, you do not walk away from the fire, you walk with it. Each breath carries light now. Each step writes eternity into time. Go, radiant one, and let heaven keep speaking through you. You have reached the final breath of this journey. Yet nothing about this moment feels like an ending. The words may quiet now, but something within you has awakened permanently. You can feel it, a warmth, a certainty, a whisper that says, I am ready. That is not emotion, it is recognition. You have remembered who you are. The message that began as a voice on a screen has now become a voice inside your own soul. You no longer listen from distance, you listen from belonging. Every part of your story has aligned to bring you here, right here, so you could remember that light was always yours to carry. And now, as you stand in this stillness, let gratitude rise. For every moment of pain that became wisdom, for every silence that became strength, for every ending that disguised itself as a beginning. You are not who you were when you started. You have become the living echo of everything heaven hoped you would remember. If this journey has touched your spirit, let it ripple outward. When your heart stirs, press the heart to like, not out of habit, but as a quiet act of recognition, your way of saying, yes, this light lives in me too. If the words have settled deeply within you, let them flow through share. You never know whose night might be waiting for the spark you now hold. Each share becomes a lantern, carried from one heart to another, gently illuminating paths unseen. And if your soul longs to stay near, to keep walking, where truth feels alive and peace feels possible, then subscribe, not as a follower, but as a friend of light. Together, we build a quiet sanctuary where voices awaken, hope breathes, and faith finds form. And finally, if this message has spoken to the unspoken in you, let it rest in the comments below. Write as you feel led, one sentence, one whisper, one truth. Each word becomes a thread in the tapestry of remembrance, binding light to light, soul to soul. So breathe, chosen one. The script may close, but your story continues. Go forth carrying what was ignited here, and let the world feel what heaven has spoken through you.